when I met him. I think it was his 7th grade year, and it was junior high football. I was one of the coaches.
Trent was a quiet young man. He had a few friends, but his friends that he did have were good friends. Kind of a loner, always kept to himself.
And I tried really hard to break that, because I like to interact with the kids and have fun, and don't like to see them, kind of keeping to themselves.
Knock, knock. Who's there? Banana, banana, who?
His dad and I always described him as an old soul. He was really quiet, but he was incredibly thoughtful. His brain was always moving. He was always thinking about how things work and how they move, and was really into physics and engineering and things like that.
Wait a minute.
As it turns out, Trent had a hearing impairment that I didn't know about when I met him. None of the other coaches ever mentioned it, so I'd be talking to him and thought he wasn't paying attention to me or ignoring me, and it turns out he just couldn't hear me.
The next day was Father's Day, and we had plans with Donnie and his boys to go bowling that night.
It wasn't unusual, but Trent decided he didn't want to go. I think it was a lot to do with the social aspect where, it's two families intermingled, and it was a little uncomfortable for him, I think.
So we kind of all started mingling about the house, and we had reservations at the bowling alley in Kennebunk. So we're getting closer, and I said, all right, guys, let's everybody get in their cars. And Kate and Ruby, okay, we're going to be leaving in a few minutes. Why don't you guys meet us there? And Trent had his doors closed, and I said, Trent, we're getting ready to go. Are you sure you don't want to go? And he said, nope. And I said, okay, I love you. I'll talk to you later. He said, okay, love you, bye.
The day that everything went south, my life changed. I remember it better than I wish I did.
He had texted me after we had been there for maybe 40 minutes, 45 minutes or so. And he said, I'm sure you could tell I've been feeling really stressed out lately. And I texted him back and I said, yeah, honey, I know. Do you want to talk about it? And there was no answer.
Angela came to me and said, well, I can't reach Trent. I think I need to go check on him.
Maybe it will be a good time for him to talk to me since everybody's out of the house and it's quiet and everything.
And it was a short while later that I got a phone call. And she was on the other end, hysterical, screaming.
I came home and I found him deceased. I had absolutely no premonition that anything like this was what I was going to come home to.
I think, unfortunately, it's typical to rethink and try to find, well, should we have known, should we have recognized something? And you could probably pull it apart and see things after the fact where you're like, well, maybe that was something that was an indicator, maybe this, maybe that. And I think that's just us pulling it apart and stretching and trying to figure out partly why. And the other part is feeling, I think, a little bit guilty about not having recognized, well, we shoulda, but the reality is this thing's happened, and this happened pretty unexpectedly.
The impact that this has had on not just us as Trent's family and his friends, a lot more than I would have thought that it would have initially. The fact that this happened to a quiet, kind, polite Trent, he was just such a sweet kid, and that's what everybody used to recall of him is his smile and how kind and polite he was. Really shook a lot of people pretty far out.
We set out for one purpose. We said we want to save a life. Doesn't matter, save one.
It was actually pretty immediate that I wanted to take action. I grieved for a few weeks, and when I stood up swinging. I wanted everybody to know that this could have been preventable if men's mental health was more of an open topic for everybody to talk about and less of a stigma. Donnie and Amy, my best friend, and my sister-in-law Margot. I spoke to all of them, and they all said, "Yeah, let's do this." Stay for Life is a nonprofit organization. We're looking to save lives by advocating for men's mental health and suicide prevention. It's getting people to talk about the things that have been brushed under the rug.
Unfortunately, young men experience a lot of pressure in their life because, well, from the time they're in diapers, they're taught, well, you're supposed to be this, you're supposed to be tough, or you're supposed to be able to look out for everybody else and those things, and that can definitely get heavy sometimes.
One of my initial thoughts was if there had been a magnet on the refrigerator that had stated the crisis hotline number, if Trent would have caught a glimpse of that and called the crisis hotline in those final moments of his life, if that would have made a difference. So one of the very first things I did for outreach was I created bright red and white magnets.
It's okay to not be okay.
We've done presentations at schools. We had one big kickoff event where we presented to the community. We have been approached by corporations to speak about the mental health aspect of it. I've been involved with the Yellow Tulip Project, which is another local nonprofit about mental health. We've had a lot of organizations reach out to us and what they can do to help us and how we can all benefit from each other. Just wanted to let you all know that we just sent out our first batch of light therapy. I don't think there's anybody in this world that hasn't struggled with mental health at one time or another in their lives. Don't just bottle it all up inside. Talk about it and let your friends know, let your loved ones know. If you feel like you can't talk to someone who's close to you, call the crisis hotline. I mean, there's text lines, there's peer-to-peer texting now. If you feel better talking to a stranger rather than somebody that you know, there's so many people that want to help. Everybody needs to stay in this world. Everybody. People think that they're not loved, that they're not needed. If those are thoughts that people are having, they need to reach out.